I'm just more curious of like, what made you start?
Yeah, sure. So lifelong, audiophile, or I don't know about audiophile. I would say lifelong fan of music,
Hmm.
and also inquisitive about mechanical things, how things go together, how things
Yeah.
come apart. And so I think the two things led towards being interested in audio and starting in car audio. And so I had a career in audio. It's the only thing I've ever done with my life. And essentially, I sort of kind of rose up a little bit through the ranks in the corporate world, and had some really interesting positions, and got to travel around the world, interact with partners from multiple different countries, learn the production side, learn the sales and marketing side. And I kept seeing a shift coming. I kept seeing that a lot of brands were being purchased by these big private equity, venture capital, corporate entities. And from my perspective, I felt like every time that happened, the soul was sucked out of the company. It left
Yeah.
very quickly.
Yeah.
If you ever blown up a piece of electronics gear and we have that, magic smoke, the magic smoke comes
Yeah.
out, don't go back in.
Yeah.
I pretty much always saw that as all this consolidation was happening. And I would sit there and think about my friends that own retail stores, specialty retail. And I would think every time this happens, the brands get killed and the small to medium retailers suffer.
Yeah.
And so I kept thinking to myself, sooner or later, the dealers are going to say, that's it. Forget it. I've had enough. I don't want to deal with this big company nonsense. And they're going to seek out brands with stories, brands that, are science based, brands that have real staying power, real engineering, real stories. And if somebody created a curated portfolio of these brands, was an extension of them in the United States, sort of curated them from all around the world, that the retailers would eventually flock and, to whoever was curating this. They would find that they don't need to be with all these big giant brands because the reality is they're always on sale, or there's always something crazy going on. And eventually it would lead to a better way to do business for small to medium retailers. And so I didn't see that happening anywhere. And I thought, I was talking to a buddy of mine. We had been talking about possibly starting something. And the two of us said, let's just do it. Let's try. So long-winded answer, but ultimately that's how we got to where we were. It was more of necessity, thinking that there really weren't a lot of great options in America. Nobody was really doing what we think should be done and what ultimately we are doing with the brands that are in our portfolio. And we felt like, it was coming. And I think in some parts we were right. In some parts, there are a lot of retailers who have pushed away or they're de-emphasizing those brands. In many cases, you will see retailers across the country who, when you walk into their store, they don't have these big brands on display. They're not in their showrooms. You can't get a demo on them. Yes, they still list them on their website and they play the Wild West and sell them for whatever they can get based on all the craziness and who's on sale what week. But if you actually go in the store, you don't see them anymore. And so that has helped us because we kept seeing that these retailers were ultimately saying, we've had enough, we're done, we're good. And that's basically led to our progression, and it's been really rapid, to be honest with you. We didn't anticipate where we are today, really not even in our wildest dreams. I mean, I think when we started, my partner and I were like, okay, maybe we'll get some really great discounts on some product for ourselves because we were both really into audio anyway. right?
Oh, good. You're just like us then.
Oh, 100%.
Oh yeah, that's my only reason I'm here.
We all start with that, right? It's like, oh man, maybe somebody will actually give me a discount because I got, I'm working class guy, I can't afford the stuff,
Yeah.
And so I thought, maybe with a discount, I'll actually be able to purchase some of this stuff. And we thought, hey, if we can, somehow scrape by ramen noodles, whatever, it beats being in the corporate world and back into that lifeless, soulless, banker-owned business that I don't ever want to be in again, right? So, and ultimately, we've moved, from ramen noodles to macaroni and cheese, and we've got the macaroni and cheese that has a little sauce packet. So it's not the powder packet,
We haven't gotten to the shaved truffles on top of it yet, have we?
Yeah, I know that exists, but give us a couple years and we might get there. But
infused truffle oil, maybe.
Infused truffle oil.
It's olive oil with a little bit of.
You could spritz it. You could spritz it into So we never went into this thinking there's a lot of money to be made or anything like that. I mean, we truly, our intentions are and have been to support people and companies that we believe in, to be able to show when we do trade shows, when we talk to consumers, when we help retailers, that you can curate a system that makes real music. That is not, I'm not suggesting it challenges a $500,000, crazy audio system, but it's not a compromise. You can make real music. You can wow people for a very approachable price, right? I don't want to say cheap. Everybody's affordability is a little bit different, but we have many times done shows and we've won some awards on them where the entire room, everything in there, the cables, the equipment, the speakers, the rack it was on, the electronics, 5,000 or under. And you walk around those shows and that whole $5,000 system with everything in there is less than one
Somebody's
ancillary
cables.
part or a cable or right. So I think we try to live up to that. We try every time we do a trade show to have at least one, and generally we have two approachable priced systems. And I think that's important to us. That's our roots. I was a car stereo installer. That's how I started in audio a long time ago, making hourly pay. Right. I told this story to somebody before, and depending on the age of the person, this story is very crazy concept. But when I wanted the first real set of component speakers for my car, I had to buy them on layaway. Now, people don't even know what layaway is these days, right? But I know that I picked them out, and I was working hourly at Office Max actually, and so I was saving up, and every time I had any free money, I would go and give them money. And so when I finally got those components, it was obviously an accomplishment to be able to pay it off and to be able to put them in my car. And I was so excited that for that entire weekend, I did nothing but, build out some kick panels and, keep constantly tweaking them. I don't think that we had laser levels on Amazon that are $9 or whatever, crazy stuff you could do now, right? Back then it was all right, let me get a ruler and see if I'm anywhere near my ear here,
Am I brave enough to cut now, or am I, right? It's oh, geez, yep.
That's my origin. So, I mean, it started with a love of music, reproducing music and cars and mixing them together. And then obviously, I've always been mechanical minded. So I went into, I started as a car stereo installer. Back then, you could sort of become a car stereo installer easier in my mind than being a mechanic. I eventually thought one day I would become a mechanic, and then my life didn't go that way. But it wasn't that difficult to, which is kind of scary now, I guess, to become a car stereo installer. And so that was where I started. I had to take a test. It was a written test back then, a little Scantron form or whatever. Learn some principles of audio and electronics and how a car comes apart and goes together and safety stuff. And Always, disconnect the battery. And ultimately, that's how I started.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's
Very
awesome.
cool. And look where you are now.
Well, so far the crowning achievement is the friendship with Carlo. So, can only go down from there,
Totally. Your check hasn't arrived yet for
It's
that
not a very
friendship,
high
so
bar
it's okay.
there. I mean, Jesus.
I just meant to tell you. No. Oh, man. But that's sorry. I'm sorry. I jumped in kind of late. I apologize. This morning's been just freaking crazy.
I was too curious to wait. I just wanted to know.
That's all right. Steve is a very cool cat and is somewhat of a Renaissance man. So yeah, absolutely, jump on in.
And unlike the journalistic podcast, I do next to no research prior to these because it's easier just to hear it from you.
That's kind of how we roll here.
Saying here is that the three of us are just winging it as we go. I'm okay with
100%.
Completely.
100%.
Completely. This is like, there's who knows where this will go, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, when we get picked up by a major news outlet to cover their stories, it'll just be like, so what's going on the ground in this war? Like, we have no idea.
Nice.
No clue. Oh my God. So I guess now that I'm jumping in or whatever, and so it sounds like you kind of gave us a little bit of sort of the background behind Fidelity and everything, and how it came to be, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. But so I guess what I'm most curious about is, like, you guys got obviously a bunch of brands now, and it's a diverse set of brands. I mean, some interesting, really unique brands with some interesting stories and stuff. What's your criteria? I mean, I don't know that. Do you go actively out looking for sort of like brands, or I mean, what is your criteria for something like a brand to appeal to you, to kind of say, okay, this looks like these might be an interesting company to bring on board and see if we can work with them? I mean, I'm just kind of curious about that.
It's a great question. It's changed over time, if I'm honest. In the beginning, we thought we would be a house of British hi-fi. So we got that wildly wrong. But
you got a couple British brands in there.
We do, but we thought we would just be, sort of British hi-fi. We started with a British brand and continued to add some. Ultimately, I think we definitely have a set of standards. I mean, first and foremost, the thing has to sound good, right? We have to believe in the brand and the people. We've made some changes in the past where either the product didn't live up to the needs, whether from a quality standpoint or a philosophy standpoint, or the people really, attacked our peace. Lately, I don't want to be too philosophical, but I'm all about protecting my peace. I think it's all you've got. And this does not have to be a rat race. This does not have to be, last year you did 1,000 boxes, so I want you to do 1,200 this year. And I'm not giving you any substance for why you should sell those other 200. I just want. We're not interested in that. And again, because the spirit of us not really doing this to become wealthy, to do this to provide for our family and also have a crazy amount of fun and surround ourselves with people we love, right? We are able to be a bit more flexible on that. So I think first and foremost, it's got to sound good. Got to believe in the company, the philosophy, and the people. I very much feel like as we go around the world, we are visiting friends. We're visiting family in many cases, and we'll probably talk about this later. But Carlo, you've got to experience that a few times. You and
absolutely.
I traveled around the world quite a bit together, and I think there's got to be a reason. It's got to fit with the other stuff in the portfolio. The second part of your question about seeking things out, this is a bittersweet answer for me. I feel everyone that's interested in audio should have the chance to go to Munich High End. Why is it bittersweet?
Hear that, Carlo? You hear that?
I'm working on that, Taps. I'm working on that. You shoot video better than I do, so I'm working on that.
It is the greatest audio show in the world. Somebody once explained it to me as the most beautiful audio show in the world, and I 100% agree with that. Bittersweet because we just recently learned that it's not going to be in Munich anymore. So, Vienna. Yeah, and Vienna's a beautiful city. So I think that the backdrop, the canvas for what this show could be in the future, has all the makings to be incredible. How they handle it, how the rooms, I don't know, right? None of us know what that will be. But that show has always been a driver for me for inspiration. I feel like I ground myself at that event. When I come out of the show, I'm energized, enthusiastic, ready to go. It's sort of like the launch for us. We go to that show, visit our partners, get re-engaged, excited about audio, and I think it's a little bit different. We have some great shows in America, and obviously Fidelity Imports is, usually one of the largest, if not the largest vendor at every one of these shows. And
you're not joking. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we do a lot of rooms, but it's different because we are a vendor there. Yeah. We're building the room. We're setting it up. We're doing demos. And with Munich, it's a different experience. We get to walk all of those rooms with no time frame, with no agenda, just go and experience it as if we are enthusiasts of the hobby. And ultimately, we generally try to make lists, and we don't share them with the other team members. Last year, we brought 7 members of Fidelity Imports to Munich. So that's how serious we take the show. It's an expenditure, but we think there's a tremendous amount of value in the show. We walk the show and we compare the lists. What were the best rooms? And thankfully, a lot of times our brands are in the very top, or there's a lot of our brands in that list. When there's not, if there's a fit, if there's not something competitive, if they don't already have a distributor, we approach them. And that's kind of been what we've been doing for probably the last 4 years, I would say. Ultimately, this year we went to Munich without looking for anything, thinking our portfolio is full. And we probably will do the same thing again this year. But I will say that as we've got some visibility and I think some proof in our concept, a lot of brands call us now. So I say that in complete, humility and very humble, because I remember begging everybody for our first brand, and I'm never going to forget that. But lately, the phone rings a lot. And I think that people, if somebody is watching this and interested in thinking about what they want to do with their career, let's say they work at one of those nameless, faceless companies that's owned by a banker or a venture capitalist or somebody like that. Take the chance.
You hear that, Taps?
Take the chance and do it, because ultimately the industry needs more people who are passionate, who can bring some vigor, some enthusiasm, some excitement. And I think that the market's big enough. We don't look at other distributors as competitors. And I'll tell you, we're doing something really fun at Expona. We went to the organizers of Expona. We've consistently been the largest vendor at Expona. I think this year we have 12 rooms. And we said, listen.
I thought you were going to cut down, if I remember correctly.
We did on some of the other shows. We did. But Expona, we went pretty wild.
Okay.
So we said to them, look, we have a lot of other distributors and even some brands that we're friends with. They all have similar energy. They have similar excitement, beliefs about the industry, are doing similar types of marketing. Can we all be on the same floor? And credit to Mark Fried and the team over at Expona, they agreed. And so they completely revamped the floor, and all of our friends are on that floor. So that floor will consist of Fidelity Imports, just Shelly, Our friend
great.
Jonathan at Tone Imports,
Mm-hmm.
Rhythm Distribution, Craig and Randy, and
Mm-hmm.
a newcomer Playback Distribution.
All right, right.
So, and that's the entire floor. There's nobody that we're not all friends. We're going to
Oh,
do a
wow.
content creator event where you'll be able to go from room to room on the whole floor. We will, and it's in the spirit of cooperation.
Nice.
If you want to buy a pair of Tannoy speakers from Rhythm and that's what you're into, cool. I don't see that as competition for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are a whole bunch of brands that are, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I really believe this, that are owned by these, bankers and
Mm-hmm.
private equity venture capital guys. Those
Yep.
are our competitors, right? And
Yep.
and hopefully, I always feel like our job is to educate the consumer as well as the retailer. In many cases, there's nothing wrong with those products.
Mm-hmm.
They could be decent products. Sometimes they could sound good. But when you're using your money, you have a choice, right? And so while those companies are gigantic and have humongous marketing budgets, you could buy from a family. You could buy from somebody who's really challenging what's possible at the bleeding edge, right? When I'm thinking about Perlison, science-based company, and the things that they do, your money can go there, right? And so our job is to constantly advocate for buying from families, buying from smaller companies, buying from people that are on the cutting edge in terms of engineering,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe your first purchase, because everybody needs a gateway drug, I guess, is a pair of speakers or electronics from some big brand that everybody knows that rambles off the top of your tongue and is probably going to be on sale. I think it's Prime Day, so it's probably 35,000 million% off this week, and during Black Friday it'll be 45,000 million% off.
1,000% off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's not sustaining, and you guys have seen all the turmoil, right? So I'm not trying to throw shade, just awareness. And I think if you look at a lot of these big giant companies and all the press we're seeing and all the stuff that's going on, something dies when they get consolidated. Something dies. The engineers leave. The people who know the DNA of the brand, they all leave. And you have this homogenized mix of something. All the sharp edges become rounded. All of the DNA that is kind of edgy, the character, the soul, it just goes, and you've got this mush, right? You just have this mush.
That's kind of the question, the kind of big question of the moment, actually. I'm not going to name the company, but there is one large holding company that has several of these brands, and it's public knowledge that they are looking to, divest themselves of them. And it's kind of like, I've been thinking, like, well, who is out there that's got, A, the wherewithal, A, the capital, B, the capital, and the drive to either take one or more of them on. I mean, it's an interesting and kind of strange situation with like a bunch of brands that have years of history. Yeah,
I think that if I know which one you're talking about, and I think I do, there's certainly one brand that maybe the crown
medical
jewel
devices. Sorry.
I'm not confirming or denying, but there's one that's the crown jewel in my mind of that portfolio, and it deserves better. It deserves to have its heritage told. It deserves, I'll take that back and jump off of that subject.
Can I ask before you jump off?
Sure.
Before you take that dive.
Before you jump off. So, like, if there was, like, the aforementioned companies, for example, and say, like, they did go to you, how much say do you have, or, like, how much are you able to be, like, if we wanted to go back to your history and your brand to restructure the company so it's no longer, like, a homogenized brand? Do you have any say in that, or do you just try to put people in place to make it better? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, and I think, I can't speak for other organizations, but I can give you some of my history and my experience and tell you what I think, which is, what we do here is different than a brand company. For us, we become the exclusive importer and distributor for the brands we represent in America, and that means we're also their sales and marketing arm. We typically create the strategy around their sales and marketing, answer all of their questions, handle service, market the company, do the trade shows, find the retailers, ultimately pick which specialist retailers to partner them with, keep them out of trouble, keep them with a disciplined channel. And I definitely want to touch on that later if we can. With a brand company, I think it's a little bit different in that product is your lifeblood. And if you don't have anybody that even understands how to link the DNA in a in an authentic way, and sometimes you need those people that were either there at the beginning or able to absorb what are the core elements of that. They also have to be willing to say, we can't be everything to all people. And so when you see sometimes these companies that they've got a range of products, and historically they've had a range of products, and now all of a sudden they go beyond the borders of that, beyond the peripheral, stuff starts to go off the rails fast, right? So when you have, and I'll give you a few, if you have a speaker company and they start making, Bluetooth speakers, or they start making headphones or wireless headphones or in-ear buds, or they start making, all kinds of things that are not in their core, party speakers with neon lights and things like that, right? Yeah. When that stuff starts happening, it typically means that the bankers are involved, the investors, the shareholders, right? Because they see a market segment and they go, we should be in there. So
they've jumped the shark, basically.
Yeah. And I think that there needs to be somebody at the top that says, we're going to focus on our core. That has to be the start. And ultimately, then that winds up in production, right? What's the ethos we're going to do, and what are we going to impart on product to be true to the things that made us where we were? And ultimately, and this is the hard part when you get, private equity involved, that may mean we will come out the other end of the tunnel as a smaller company. That's the hardest thing for these guys to do. There's an incredible book called Think Small. And it's about companies that chose to stay true to what they wanted to do, what they are, with their beliefs, knowing it will stifle growth, but not profitability and expansion and setting them up for the future. So if you're interested in a fun journey that tells you the opposite of what most people will tell you, that book is incredible. I think that we're in an interesting, sort of time with audio. People are consuming content more than ever, and not even just from a standard, music format. The proliferation of gaming and YouTube and all these other things mean that high quality sound is becoming more and more important. Reproduction of human voice, of instruments, is tremendously important. And you will hear so many people who will write off the audio industry. Oh, it's bad. The best days were in the 80s, this, that, the other thing. I don't believe any of them. I really don't. In fact, it's sort of like, hey, you got cooties, stay away from me. You know what I mean? Because I don't want that to enter our sphere. All of us here are incredibly excited. We're continuing to grow. We've been growing like weeds, like wildfire, and it's not because we're, super great at business or whatever. It's just because the myth that the business is shrinking is not true. The business for $1,000 AVRs that nobody ever wanted in the beginning is shrinking.
Yeah.
Right? The AVR was always a solution to a problem. People built businesses around that, but ultimately none of us want a 17-inch wide rectangular box, right? We want the format and the screen to work.
Yeah, you've just found a new friend in Taps. Yeah. So there you go.
I mean, it was about solving a problem. And so as that ASP has gone down, because what you see is the screen and the speakers, right? Because it's a rectangular box. Many people have been, have seen some pain, and there's more pain coming, right? With that industry, and it will continue to keep going down. If you're in low price products, you got pain in your forecast, right? But once somebody's bought that first time and music is their thing and they're thinking about something else, chances are they're going to be more discerning on their second purchase. And that's usually where we kick in, right? Yeah. We're pretty high on you've decided that this is something you care about, and it's strange to me. And of course it's easy because I'm in the industry for me to say this, but if you were to line up 100 people and ask them to tell you what's important to them, almost all of them, before they get to number 10, are going to put music in there. Yeah, they're going to say their family, their friends,
right. Their dog,
right? Maybe their career or whatever, or some sport that they like. But before they get to number 10, music will be in that list. So if it's one of the top 10 most important things to you, if it's that high on the level of like things you can't live without or things that are part of your daily routine, why don't we invest a little bit more? Why don't we figure out how to have a quality reproduction? Go ahead, Taps.
Sorry, I don't know what that bubble is that just showed up on my thing, but what the hell was that?
AI.
iPhones. You said something where once you're already in, once you've decided to buy speakers or something like that, and then you choose to upgrade again, that's where you come in?
But pretty much, usually. I mean, we have some brands that you could maybe say it's your first purchase into actually getting a real system. I mean, like somebody has a Bluetooth speaker or a small little all-in-one setup, and they're okay. I'm gonna do some components, or I'm gonna do something beyond a one-box solution.
Step it up or something.
We do have a few things in that space, but even then, we really cater to, I know this is something I like. I get enjoyment. I get fulfillment out of whatever, I'm doing, whether it's movies or cinema. And I'm going to put a little bit more money into it.
So
that's usually where our brands come in at.
So that's the reason I ask is this might be a weird parallel, but it's kind of like if you're going to buy a camera, outside of being a creator or someone that always upgrades, but if you're going to buy a camera, generally the first camera you buy is the last camera that you buy, right? So then I wonder can you is that
I can give you a lot of camera parallels, and I think that for us, and me especially, I saw a moment in time where the camera industry got really good at marketing, got really good at storytelling, and rebounded in a way that's kind of unbelievable. And I'm not sure why there aren't more books talking about this. And if Gladwell does a book on this, I'm signing up, I'm reading, I'm going to the book signing, right? Malcolm Gladwell's awesome. But there was a moment where you could track at exactly the same time the prevalence of smartphone and the camera decline
of camera
at the exact same time, right? And what was happening was point and shoot type cameras down, smartphones going up. At that exact moment, you could watch the divide get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So cameras are falling off the cliff and smartphones are going crazy. So the adoption of smartphones. What happened? The stalwarts that were there at that time, Nikon, Canon, they're not at the top anymore. Now, there's a technology story you could argue a little bit, right, with mirrorless. Okay. But the reality is, and this is, I'll give you a couple, parallels or things that we've taken from this. You saw Sony just become a beast, eventually take over number one market share. But you saw Fujifilm and Leica maybe a little bit of Hasselblad as well, start to get really good at marketing and start to have year over year banner years. And they've been on that trend ever since.
Yeah.
Right. So if you look at the sell-through data, you know, the last release of the X100 from Fujifilm was sold out for like 18 months.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
It's an $1,800, you know, fixed manual prime camera.
It's a beautiful looking little camera.
That's like, for me, that's me, right? I still listen to records, and like that's analog, right? Even though, okay, it's digital, but that's an analog mindset.
I was gonna buy the XE4 until they discontinued it. Now I'm just waiting for that $2,500 XE5.
I still have an XE3 because it looks like a rangefinder, and I can't, you know, it's a beautiful little camera.
Exactly. And there's something about tactile interaction when you have buttons and switches and knobs and things like that. And there's a lot of parallels in audio. Yeah, cars as well, and mechanical watches. All these things
that feel good. Yeah.
And so I think that what we saw, and I was like watching this happen like in slow motion, thinking, what is going on in audio? I saw Sony do events where they weren't doing the typical audio thing. Yeah. They weren't doing reviews. They weren't doing, hey,
camera
here's
camp.
a camera.
Yeah.
You're talking about camera camp, right?
Yes. So what they started doing was having on location, they bring content creators together. They did an incredible one in New York City. And what I found that we try to do at Fidelity Imports as much as possible is the people who were involved from the content creator side had personalities. And I have this concept of single serving. We're still in audio in a single serving environment. What do I mean by that? If you want a $2,000 AVR, you can go out and you can find all these single serving you know, reviews where it tells you 100 watts by, God knows, 13 channels, right?
Yeah.
6 HDMI inputs with eARC and 2 point whatever. And they'll tell you sometimes at the end, I compared it with this and this, right? And the problem with that is I'm a single serving user of that. I've gone on my quest. I've read what's available at $2,000-ish, $1,000, doesn't matter the price point. And now I've finished my quest. You recommended XYZ brand. You compared it to the ABC and 123 brand. I chose that. I'm done. I'm out of the market. I'm no longer interested in consuming audio content. And that's messed up, right? And that's where I felt like and I still feel this way today, not enough people understand that the reality is when you think about how you consume content with the other things you're interested in, sports, mechanical watches, automobiles, whatever your hobby, whatever your other passions are, it's not that way. And the camera industry was the best at this because you're not going to buy a camera every 3 months. You're not going to buy a camera probably every year, right? Mm-hmm. Most people save up for a while to get a camera, and I think that
it lasts them for a while.
Yes.
But you tell stories with it.
Exactly. Yeah. And the people who are telling you about these cameras have personalities and stories, and they're engaging. And so the next thing you know, like I got this one guy, his name is Kai. And you know, him and Locke, these are two reviewers. They have channels separate. They used to be together. I haven't been shopping for a camera in years. I watch almost every video they produce. And I'm not.
Oh, is Kai from Thailand?
Yes.
Yeah, I like his stuff. He's awesome.
Is it Thailand or Hong Kong? I might be the same person. I'm not sure.
Glasses, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We do, the same guy. Yeah.
So that those storytellers, those personalities, that content was still relevant to me, even though I wasn't looking to purchase anything. I'm not on a search. I'm not on a quest to buy something. And so it's because I was passionate and interested in photography. I'm terrible. I match the button on the shutter button, and every now and again I get a good one. But I like the process of photography. I like manual focus primes. I like slowing down. I like rangefinder. I like the pure
analog thing of it. Yeah.
Yes. So audio has a chance to do the same thing. And that's what we're trying to do. So we employ 2 full-time videographers. I don't know of another distributor that has 2 full-time videographers in America. I'm pretty sure no one does. And I don't even know that many brands that have 2 full-time videographers. Why are we doing that? Because we feel strongly that content is key. And we don't want to produce content that says, well, if you're searching for a $9.99 pair of speakers, this is what you should buy. Or compared to this speaker or that speaker, you're going to get this. I don't want to make that content, right? What we want to do is we want to say, these are the people, these are the philosophies, and in many cases, this is the family or this is the location in which this product is built, and how all of those ingredients are important to the recipe of what comes out as a finished product. And that's the thing that I pray audio starts to adopt. So we do things, right? We don't have unlimited budgets, but we do things, and we'd be happy if more people did them. We take as many of the members of the press as we can possibly afford on location. We bring them to Italy. We bring them to Munich. We're going to be bringing a bunch of people to England and France, I think in February. So we're working on another trip, and we say to the people that come from the press and from the content creation world, you can do whatever you want. For it to be fair, I can't tell you anything. I can't. There's no quid pro quo. I don't expect anything from you. But if I can't give you something, if I can't present a canvas for which you should paint upon by taking you to England or France or Italy or, very soon, Madison, Wisconsin, to see Perlison's new facility, right?
Yay!
But if you can't, the Madison, Wisconsin, okay, maybe that for some people won't jump out as the most.
You better like cheese.
If you like cheese, if you like football. But if you are interested in cutting edge engineering, computer modeling, science first product, you're going to be blown away by what you see there. Those things need to be seen, observed, and then reported on. And so for us, it's about creating that content, putting people in the environment, allowing them to create whatever they want in that space. And I feel strongly that we have some amazing people in audio, crazy characters. We've got, brilliant people. And why do we only want to tell a story about a 17.5-inch wide box that has 6 inputs and 100 watts per channel, and it does this and that? That's 1/10 of the story, right? That's the part that I just wish more people would get involved in, because when we elevate, when we get better at telling stories, when we start to take a similar tact to what the camera industry has done, you will have people that are in this hobby that won't feel that it's an insular hobby, right? And that's what a lot of people feel right now. What if you're interested in audio, how do you share that? Hey, Tom, come on over and sit on my couch. I want to show you my system. It's a weird thing, right?
Yeah, when you think of audios and audiophiles, it's always like an old wrinkly white guy with gray hair. With like a giant horn behind him. That's what I think of, right? Like,
horn behind
yeah, like 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 one of those giant horn speakers. But like, you never think of like we all have diverse backgrounds, and like we have different tastes. We come from different places, right? And when you think of your favorite artist, sorry to cut you off. When you think of your favorite artist, there's like the song that they made, and then there's a backstory of how they made the song, which is less important than their upbringing, which is infinitely more interesting. Like there's I'm jumping all over the place. There's a show on Netflix called Chef's Table. You ever see it?
Yep.
And so like every show on that, or every episode on that show is like they focus on a Michelin star chef and his process of making food. But inevitably, you're watching that show, and then you realize every single show is about loss. That's what it is. It's like every chef on that show has lost something valuable to them, whether it's actual taste from having cancer, or hey, I lost my family, or I lost, and that's kind of what they build a show off of, and then it draws you in more because everyone can relate to that. It's not just about cutting and stirring and pouring,
Tortured souls create the best art.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day. So cooking can be an art. Music clearly is an art. And it's always the tortured ones that create the best version of that.
Distributing audio can be an art.
Distributing audio can be. I'm definitely
you tortured soul.
I feel that way every time the phone rings and it's Carlo.
I am the official torturer of souls. I confess. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
You beat your soul with a belt, a hi-fi belt.
I feel like audio could be so much more. It doesn't have to be that insular thing. It could be about, we have an event, whether it's Expona, whether it's Munich, whether it's whatever, and you can interact with the people that are creating the content. You can come up and meet Carlo at the next Expona, right? Have him draw you something, because many people don't know what an incredible artist Carlo is.
And also, if you're out there and you meet Carlo, give him a hug, because he really loves hugs from strangers. So just hug Carlo.
But that's the element of meet the people that are involved in it, and then have a discussion. You mentioned horns earlier.
Mm-hmm. I hope I didn't touch a nerve there. It's just my touch a nerve.
It's an interesting topic. I mean, if you think about it, I often wonder what the actual experience base is for many people, especially on an internet forum where Class D is terrible, horns sound like this, right? Like there's these things, and you wonder, have you actually
notions
heard the difference between those things? And do you understand how these things can work well or not, right? There's so much mystery. We still, obviously we sell to retailers, not to consumers, but consumers call us. They want validation of what the dealer told them, validation of whatever YouTuber told them, validation of, I'm about to do this. This is my system. What do you think? Yeah, sure. Right. You're in trusted hands with your retailer, but sure, we'll talk to consumers. And what we've learned is the actual amount of experience people have had with a truly great audio system is way smaller than you think. And their ability to understand the difference in the different technologies of how to reproduce music is not that vast. And some of it is the retailer needing to be able to tell the consumer and show them, give them an experience. Okay, you're interested in open baffle. Let me explain what that is, why you might want it. You want an electrostatic speaker. Let me explain why you might want that. Subwoofers are only for home theater. Let me explain why that's not true. Right? So that has to be demonstrated. And as we've moved to an increasingly more and more online format for when we're going to purchase something, get educated on our decision, there's a huge need for a place to actually have this happen. And whether it's at a trade show, whether it's at a retailer, or whether it's the industry figuring out how to talk about these concepts more. Because there's so many paths to nirvana, right? You've got horns or high efficiency speakers with low power tube amplifiers. You've got giant power amplifiers with really slim towers. You've got thin panel speakers. You have subwoofers, no subwoofers, multi-channel, two-channel, analog, right? Whether vinyl, streaming, there's so many formats, so many ways to reproduce music. Is it that one of them's right and all those other people are wrong? That's impossible, right? So what's the right path for you? What do you want? What type of music? What are you after? What's on your priority list? There's a lot that goes into creating a great audio system. And it is not spending money or writing a check. And that's the hardest part. There's synergy among the products, among the technology, the philosophies. So many people don't understand high efficiency, right? Some people will say, oh, I saw the speaker and it's 92 dB efficient, so I'm going to get a 12-watt tube amplifier. Well, what's the impedance? What happens when the speaker's under load? Because if the impedance dips really bad, that's not good for a tube amplifier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. These are all questions I ask Carlo when I get a product in. I'm like, what am I missing?
And I try my best to answer, which doesn't always work out real well, but that's a different story.
But like everything that you're saying is like things that like people like me need to know. Like I, as self-deprecating as like some people are, like I'm very aware, like I came into this without any experience. And so I get to learn and fail live with every review, right? Which is fun because like I'm here for like the same reason that like you were when you first started. It's like I want to get my hands on as much gear as possible and then hear it, because otherwise I wouldn't have that opportunity. And then for all of my friends that do watch or are now a bit more invested just by like, hey, I have a friend doing it. They've all purchased systems of varying quality and they're now enjoying it as well, right? And so I feel like just more people need to just hear a system of some sort, you know? And then that's kind of the jumping off point.
Taps, you're totally right.
A little bit.
I think there's when you get that knowledge base and you start to understand the differences, I wouldn't say it's a responsibility. There's an opportunity for you when you're doing a review to not just report on what you found in the comparison of another product or in the review itself, but also about fundamentally, why does this technology exist? Why do people believe in it? What does it work well with? Because I think the more we start to educate and the more we start to tell different stories, the better the entire industry gets and the more inclusive it will be, right? That's the other part. Somebody is new to the industry. They go on a forum or a Facebook group or wherever. You've all seen it. We've all seen it, right? They may not even understand. Maybe they have the means to buy a $2,000 integrated amplifier, but they're coming from a $300 Bluetooth speaker. So they're like, okay, I want to spend $2,000 and that's everything.
Yeah.
And so somebody will go, I was doing whatever baseline research and I found XYZ audio, whatever. And somebody will go, you don't want that. It's crap. It's made in China, or it's got this. It's blah, blah, blah. Oh, Class D is terrible. Right. And if I'm that person, I'm not interested in it anymore. Right.
Right.
Like,
right.
I watch a lot of content of, 1930s Bugattis. One right there. I have zero means or capability to own a 1930s Bugatti. I'm fascinated by them.
But it's been romanticized at some point.
Yeah. And if I ask a question, the good news is the Bugatti people that know about this are super excited to share all their wisdom with you. They don't go, you can't afford that, or, well, what are you talking about? That's a piece of crap. You don't want that stuff. You have to have this.
They don't
Bugatti.
turn up their nose at you, basically, or just make you feel intimidated or whatever.
I don't know why we do that, and I think that.
I think it's the armchair expert. It's kind of like when.
It's kind of
like when people watch sports, for example, right? And then there's like everyone's friend or every internet forum is like, this guy sucks. He needs to retire. And then you hear an athlete talk and they're just like, holy crap, here's all the stuff you missed. Here's probably what they're thinking, what they're feeling. Here's, here's the specifics of like everything about it.
When making the play,
and it's
or
infinitely more interesting. And so it's like when you have people that are very knowledgeable in it, that's one way. And then if you're not knowledgeable about it, just talk about how you feel, but like there's no hard and fast rule there, and like, especially I notice it within hi-fi where there's confirmation bias that you're looking for. Like you've already sort of made up your mind. And then there's people just regurgitate what other people have said that maybe they look up to. Like there's a dude in my comments, every single review, no matter what I do, no matter what the speaker is, there's a dude that's just like, how dare you? I'm using a EVO 150 from Cambridge Audio. It's 150 watts. It's totally fine. It's my favorite thing to use. And it's also the most powerful thing I have. But this guy consistently is like, you're not doing these justice. You need 300 watt mono blocks. and that's it. And he's like, I feel like I've been telling you this in subsequent reviews, and you're not listening. And I'm like, I'm never going to listen to you. Like,
that's not going to stop me. I'm going to keep telling you, no matter how many reviews you put out, forever and ever, ad infinitum.
But it's just like, he hasn't set in his mind that this is the only way forward. But like,
we've experienced that. We try to freak people out with this. Per listen, is our premier speaker line, and it's really an amazing product, very science based, and it's cutting edge. It will work with most amplifiers, but it's not simple to drive, right? You probably don't want to put a 12-watt tube amplifier on it, right? 12-watt per channel tube amp. And there's a lot of people that'll say that, oh, you need separates for the best performance, this and that, and we just don't believe that. I mean, separates can get you there, but there's more chances to induce noise. There's more cables. There's more synergy that needs to go. And so what we've done, and Carlo has experienced this at the factory as well as at a number of trade shows. We decided to flip it on its head, right? So we consistently will run a per listen, top of the range speaker with an integrated amplifier from AudioFlight. As a, again, no compromise. This is a phenomenal setup. This could be your Nirvana, your end game setup. And it can happen with an integrated amplifier.
Yeah.
So the people who say, oh, you're not doing it justice, Taps, to what you were talking about because you need 300 or you need this.
Yeah.
Ooh, maybe I'm probably gonna get a comment from that.
Sorry.
So thanks for passing that my way.
Well, don't worry. I'll tag you when he comments on the next video. It's just like
one thing, actually, Steve, I wanted to ask you, because something when you were talking about basically, what you do as a distributor, you kind of said a couple things about when you're getting a lot more phone calls now from other manufacturers and stuff. And it got me to thinking, before I actually met you, my experience with a number of, and I'm not going to mention, this is just a generalization, but my experience with a number of higher end distributors wasn't that like either impressive, or it was like a number of these guys that I've met were like, it's like they were in it because they were looking for a pair of speakers to, or some cool equipment to play around with. They never gave me the impression that they were looking at growing the brand any. And a couple of these guys, because I've asked them, hey, we'd like to do a review of this. How would that be possible? Blah, blah, blah. And a lot of these guys, more than a few of them are saying, well, I'd have to drive it to you, because it's like I would have to drive it to you. Take it in my car. I only have one, or this or that or something else. And it's like, you're representing a huge brand, or not a huge brand, but a significant brand, an expensive brand per se. And I don't know how you could do it just like, I'm going to bring it to you in my car, or I'm going to do, and it's like a number of these guys just did not strike me as being serious. You were probably one of the few distributors I've met that's like, God, like I don't mean to, I'm not blowing smoke, or I'm not, just to fluff you up or whatever, but it's like, you actually you put some thought into it. You actually seem to have a plan. You actually have some sort of direction that you want to go with this, where a lot of folks, and it's not everybody, but a number of folks I've talked to never did. And it's like, I never could understand that. And does that say something about distributors, the state of distribution in general, when you have more of these companies calling you now?
Yeah, I think I'll take it back to where we started, right? I mean, first of all, thank you for the kind words. We got you fooled. What we've seen, some of our journey has been necessity. I went around the world. I had a couple of global positions, and I would interact with distributors around the world, and these distributors would not give us, and I represented brands at the time, they would not give us their sell-through lists. They wouldn't tell us who the customers were. They felt like that was their customer. And from day one, we tell every brand, these are not our customers, they're your customers. We're an extension of you. We share everything. We tell every brand, every product's been sold to every retailer, at what price we sold it for, the serial number. We don't hide anything. These are not our customers. So that's a fundamental difference in philosophy among many distributors that you'll meet. I actually hate the word distributor. I think it's a 4-letter word. That's why we're Fidelity Imports. I totally hate that word because of what you're talking about, Carlo. In my experience, and I don't want to overgeneralize. So
right. And I need to apologize if it sounded like I was overgeneralizing too, but I experienced
Stop
it
playing
enough.
nice. Just Stop being nice. Stop being nice. Just
we'll be transparent. We're talking about it because it does exist. And I saw it too, and that's why we started this. There are a number of people who are enthusiasts, not business people first, or didn't have a business background. And what you see from my company is, and we're honored to have people like this, a former mentor of mine, his name is Bob. Carlo, you've met him.
Bob.
He's the former president of Sony. He's the former president of Denon and Marantz.
Yeah. I
drug him out of retirement, right? I'm pretty sure he's a terrible golfer. And I asked him, what do you do? Come help me. Something's going on. I don't know what I'm doing. I need help, but people are interested in what we're doing. I don't know of another distributor that has a guy that was the former president of Sony and the former president of Denon Marantz working there, right?
Seriously, yeah.
And our company exists with many people like that. Again, we have 2 full-time videographers. I can't stress enough the amount of resource we put behind that because we believe so much in that creation. We've got a person who works for us that speaks, reads, and writes 7 languages, including Japanese and Mandarin. Jeez. So it's a different level of team. And so we try to treat our retailers with respect. We try to treat our customers, the end user consumers, with respect. But it starts with embracing the fact that these brands are important. They will die without us or die in this market. And we have a responsibility for them. We have a responsibility to tell their story as if they were our company. And that's core to what we do. And a lot of the things we do, having 9 million rooms at these trade shows, bringing the press to the brands to meet them, having the video capabilities, the photography capabilities, they're necessary, or I can't be true when I look at the brand in the face and tell them I'm trying to grow, I'm trying to be an extension of them in this market. And what you will find from a lot of other distributors, again, I can't stand that word, is maybe they were in hi-fi, maybe they were in retail, maybe they were interested in audio, maybe they just wanted a discount, which brought us all ultimately into audio. We've all gone had our career.
I will forever look for a discount. It's in my blood, man.
There's nothing wrong with that. It can be an expensive hobby, right?
No, I just meant in everything. I'm Indian. Just like, if there's a discount, I want a discount.
Haggling is in my blood.
What's that skit on Dave Chappelle where he's like, $1 and some envelopes? So I feel like taking it back to the beginning where I was trying to bring it back was there's an opportunity. I don't think it's a secret. I don't think that I'm going to lose if more people come into the market. But if you're thinking about you're burned out, you've got some acumen, you've done some stuff in audio or even just in business, and you want to do something different, there's a need for high quality distributors in America. There's also a strong need for high quality manufacturer representatives, right? So what we call rep firms. I don't know if that's a great term for them or not, but somebody in a local market that has a portfolio of brands that visits local market retailers. These two things are ripe for disruption. So if you think about what's been happening, a number of the distributors as well as the manufacturer reps are aging out. There's an opportunity. So when we think about where is the next opportunity in audio coming, what else can we do? These are two categories where, again, I hope nobody wants to, takes the risk and then, something goes wrong and they come back and move. But I would tell you to take a chance, bet on yourself, because there's a necessity. It's fun. It's an awesome thing to be able to provide for your family by selling products that bring music to life. I can't, there might be a better job out there, but I haven't found it. And for me, I'm very proud that I can feed my family selling products that bring music to life. I mean, that's ultimately, what I think about consistently. So on the days where it's tough, where adversity punches you in the face, you just kind of keep thinking, okay, but it's not a toaster. Right?
It's not a toaster.
I think we just filmed your LinkedIn post for like.
It's not a toaster. I'm gonna put that on the company right.
This podcast is brought to you by ZipRecruiter.
Sponsorship.
There we go.
I personally think you're kind of upset that the Munich show isn't going to be in Munich anymore because you're not going to have that auto.
I've never been there.
Auto place across the street from the convention center.
I'm going to stay there this year.
Oh yeah, like the hotel in that place.
Yeah,
Taps. You don't know the one thing you don't know about the.
I saw the pictures of the lineup of cars. Yeah,
right. That place.
So is it still there this year?
It is still there this year. It's next year. It moves to Vienna or whatever. But
all right, so I need to go, Carlo.
We'll be working on that, Taps. We're working on that. But the assortment of cars in that place is insane. It still amazes me whenever I think about it.
It's wild. It's almost overwhelming. Your head is on a swivel and you don't know where to go. Like your head's going one way, your feet are going another way. I'm obsessed with cars. It is.
Do you get to sit in them?
No,
they don't let you sit in them. No, I wish they did.
No.
Are there actual car dealers in that place, or is it just strictly display stuff? There's actual dealers in that place.
There's a McLaren dealer in there. I believe, I don't know this to be a fact, but I think there's a Bugatti dealer in there. I mean, there's some really high-end automobile manufacturers selling products in that facility.
So I have to ask then, as just a bit of an aside, what do you got? What kind of cars do you have in your place?
Let me start with mental illness is a real thing. And men don't share, and men just typically say, I'll figure it out and I'll be all right.
Yeah.
So for my brothers on the struggle bus, mental illness is definitely a real thing. I suffer from that when it comes to automobiles.
Sorry. I was like, where are we going? What happened?
That was my interlude to be able to explain to you what I'm about to tell you, because my brain has mental problems, and I literally can justify anything when it comes to automobiles. It's a problem.
Okay. Call 1-800 mental health number down here.
I'll tell you a little bit about this with the preface of working class dude, grew up in South Philadelphia, and
if you drop Ferrari right after this, you can't say working class. Blah, blah, blah. I get where you came from, but if you drop Ferrari at some point, I'm just gonna be like, no, just go ahead. So Ferrari.
Some new. So I have a 57 Morgan, a 58 Alfa Romeo Giulietta Sprint. Giulietta Spider Veloce. I did have a Sprint, but that's gone. I'm thinking, because I just made a couple changes just recently. I have a.
The fact that you have to think about it is just tripping me up.
I just shifted my collection around quite a bit. I have a GT4 2021, 22, I think.
Taps is in physical pain now.
Yeah.
Keep going. I drive a Kia Rio, so
Sorry.
Um,
I'm poor.
1967 911 short wheelbase.
Oh, pretty.
And I just built a 2.8 liter short stroke motor that the car would have come with a 2 liter originally. It's pretty wild. The car is going to be bananas when it's finished. I've been working on it for a while. I have a lot of green things. I'm obsessed with the color green, so it's green.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And it's it should make 285 horse, around 6,400 RPMs, but rev all the way out to 8,200, and it weighs about 1,900 pounds, maybe a little less than that.
Oh my God, that thing's got to go would go like stink. Oh my God.
Yeah, and then I did have a 2001 Ferrari 99 Ferrari 360, but it's gone. I haven't
Oh, sorry.
Longer. I'm still.
Oh, sorry.
I'm in your good books now. I'm in your good books now.
So no Ferrari at the moment. It hurts. Okay. There's definitely some physical pain. I think that once you have a Ferrari, ultimately there'll be moments where you're sitting in silence and you get the shakes.
And you get the shakes.
You get the shakes because you're like, I don't have a Ferrari. And then you wake yourself back up and you realize, no, I'm just kidding.
You're just kidding. And you're thankful you don't have to deal with that actual Ferrari dealer anymore or whatever.
Because you have to have one to get another one, right? That's how it works?
Yeah. I bought the car in the pandemic. It was one of those like, who knows whether or not we're ever going to see people again. And I just sort of went for it. I got it out of my system, the itch is scratched, all that stuff. It was a cool car. It is a cool car. It's a cool company. But my heart is more with vintage cars, to be honest with you. And vintage Ferraris are not in my, that's Swiss bank money. I'm not there. And
you've raced vintage cars too. I mean, you've raced in the Italian Mille Miglia, if I remember right?
Yeah, I've done. I've done 1,000 miles through Italy on public roads 7 times, and
Jesus. That has to be a hell of an adventure.
There's no photography. There's no video. There's no words that can convey what that is, right? It's an assault on your senses in every way, shape, and form. You are.
What does it smell like?
It smells incredible, except by about 2:00, there's something on your teeth and in your mouth.
Kerosene.
It's petrol, right?
It's 10W30.
It's petrol that's I've done it every time in an open vehicle, so I'm out in the elements,
Yeah.
It is an incredible experience. I recommend to people, if you're a car nut, just go to Brescia, experience it. Just be there when they're leaving and be there when they come back if you don't want to follow the whole thing or you don't want to be part of the race. But ultimately, from 1927 to 1957, the race was run almost consecutively. There was a couple-year pause for the war, but it's 1,000 miles on public roads with no barriers, no nothing, and the Romans calculated distance in miles. That's why it's called the Mille Miglia, which means 1,000 miles, and it is, every car is from 1927 to 1957. So unlike a Pebble Beach where you will go to a show, the cars are static.
Yeah.
at the Millennia, they're doing what they were intended over the course of used to be 3 days.
They're not show princesses. They're
No.
you're driving them the way they should be driven.
There is zero chance you're coming back without rock chips and scratches and black soot all over your car, but you'll have a lot of stories to tell.
But that's
right?
totally the antithesis of like modern racing, because it's like with all the safety stuff and everything and the helmets and all that. I mean, this is kind of like, this is raw. I mean, you're like basically, it's like flying without a net, I would imagine, right?
Can I ask a really potentially stupid question? So
There are no stupid questions, Taps.
you're on a 1,000-mile drive in a vintage car. Do you bring a stereo? Or does it just, you're listening to the engine and stuff?
No, it's the engine, it's the landscape, and it's the people. I think, so a few things. One, first time I did it, I was in a car with no seatbelts, no power steering, no power brakes, no airbag, no nothing. I was still under the belief that I was invincible until I crashed one year, and now I realized I'm not invincible. I crashed in a Morgan, which is arguably the absolute worst car in the world to crash in because the body is made of wood.
Yeah, practically balsa wood, practically.
Do you still have your own same legs, or like?
I do. I broke 2 ribs, my wrist, and I have. It was not fun.
Okay.
It was not fun.
Okay.
I'm okay. I did it twice after that. Get back on the horse kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I would tell you about it. Italy's like no place in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They give everyone off from school. They give the children off from school and a lot of the workers off from work to stand along the 1,000 miles.
Oh, wow.
And so as you are driving, tiniest of roads, smallest of cars, there are people standing there cheering. For virtually the entire 1,000 miles.
Oh,
that's wild.
And there are the people who remember the 27 to 57, the real original one. They have this thing they do, and it's kind of amazing. And you'll see older women, older gentlemen do it. They put their hands over their head like this, and they clap as you go by. And it is the most endearing thing you will ever see. As you go into the piazzas, as you go into the squares where you get your stamp and you check in, they will announce your name. They, say where you are in your position in the race. And it is not uncommon for someone to bring you an espresso, a banana, they'll throw a salami at you. It's utterly wild. And then you take off as fast as you possibly can. And there are no rules. In the driver meeting, they tell you can pass on the left. If you can't pass on the left, you can pass on the right. If you can't pass on the right, go on the pavement. Everybody will cheer.
Oh, God.
I've never seen anything like it in my life. You have 450 of the greatest cars ever made from 1927 to 1957 doing 1,000 miles flat out. I mean, it's just incredible. So if you're a car person, if you're somebody who's, done the Pebble Beaches, you go to Monterey for Car Week, or you watch all the Barrett Jackson stuff, this is a bucket list. Go to Brescia. It's very close to Venice. It's in the north of Italy, and be there while they leave, because it is unbelievable. The cars take over the whole city, so they're street parked everywhere. You will see a $20 million 1950s Ferrari street parked, and that's the only time you'll ever see that. It's wild. So yeah,
that's amazing.
That picture that you see there of the Mercedes, so not the Bugatti in the center, but the one over there, is Sterling Moss in 1955. He holds the world record for the Mille Miglia. And he averaged, I might get this wrong, I believe 98 miles per hour. It was a consistent average of 98 miles per hour over 1,000 miles.
Oh, my God.
In 1955.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Yes.
Huh.
So Balls
anyone-
the size of watermelons.
Yeah.
And you did 98 miles an hour in a wooden car?
How anyone would have like a set of pelvis left after driving 1,000 miles in one of those races, I have no idea.
It is the coolest thing ever. I mean, if you're into cars, if you're into, nostalgia, many of the people dress up as if they were back in that time period. So their clothes are similar to, what they would have run, or are the exact clothes that you would have run in that time period. There's some amazing pictures of the main square where they have a sealing ceremony where they take a band of metal that has a little seal on it and they attach it to the steering column. It's proof that you've done it. You've not deviated. It's the same vehicle, blah, blah, blah. But there's pictures of that spot in 1927 and then again in 2020, right?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And it's exactly the same.
Same.
The only thing that's different is the clothing.
That's awesome.
That's wild. And the fact the
really
picture
cool.
might be in color.
Are there any other cars you didn't mention, or is there, or should we leave that alone? I don't want to get robbed, so I just
that's me.
Okay.
Like I said, I recently shifted a bunch of them, and so I think there's always something on your mind, right?
So what's on your mind now?
I would absolutely love a Lancia Aurelia B20 GT, 1950s. This is a amazing car designed by Pininfarina. It's the first production V6 car in the world. It has some pretty advanced rear suspension for its time frame. Beautiful car, more of a grand tourer than a sports car per se, but I love the lines of the car. I love the looks of the car. One day I will own one for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So God comes to you. However God may take a form, he, she, it, whatever, and says,
Yoda.
Stephen, my son, you may have your love for watches and cars is legendary. You may have only one of each. Which do you choose?
Is it uncapped budget or no?
Uncapped budget, whatever.
At this point, uncapped. Yeah.
At this point, yeah. Shoot the moon.
Uncapped, I'm going with the 1950s Ferrari 250 MM, 100%. And in terms of a watch, yeah, I mean, that's probably, it's a single watch, the last one for the rest of Rolex 5513, patinaed up, which is a vintage Submariner, no restoration. Patina as is, scratches, the glass could be cracked, or the crystal could be cracked. The loom has fallen off in parts or whatever. I don't care. But something that's lived a life, that every time you look at it, you realize it's lived a life and you're a steward for the next person. That would be what I would do. And I think that that's a Rolex Submariner. I'm not partial to new Rolex.
Unless the watch was like in your grandfather's ass and then fought a war. And then my father took it and put it in his ass for like his...
Where did this come from? Where did this come from?
Wow. Pulp Fiction.
How did we get that? Oh, Pulp Fiction. Okay.
Did you not see that movie?
God. It's been years since I've seen that movie. Oh my God.
That's Christopher Walken telling
Yeah, okay.
about this watch.
Yeah. So he didn't so the Nazis didn't take it. He just kept it in his ass for the. Yeah.
Oh my God!
Was that too deep? Sorry.
This has got to be the wildest off the rails audio.
Audio? What the hell? Audio? We're not talking about audio. What is this?
Tap, I blame you. I kept it straight and narrow, and you went.
And he wonders why I don't take him to Munich.
You said a watch that has lived a life, and I was just trying to think of like, what watch do I know that's lived a life?
I can't
and that's
take
the
you
only
anywhere,
one.
man. It's looking more. Oh my god, that's hysterical.
So anyway, so that's the watch.
Yeah, that's the watch. Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a do everything watch, right? I mean, it's not a dress watch, but it's a watch you're going to wear 90% of the time, 95% of the time, right? Yeah, and I think there's something about, I like mechanical things with wheels, and I especially like mechanical things that have wheels. So I think that there's a lot of us that are wired this way. There's some element of tactile interaction with a product that has material composition of metal.
Yeah.
Because metal's one of those things that even subconsciously when you touch it, it's cold, it's metal.
It's got
Plastic
substance to it.
Isn't going to do that, right?
It's got substance to it, and it feels
substance, value,
weight.
So then
anything like that for me, I'm interested in. I think that's why, whether it's a camera, right, that has dials and an aperture and things that you can adjust physically, not digitally, whether it's a vintage car that doesn't have a screen, right, that has actual things that you need to do to make the thing go, whether it's a turntable, right, or an audio system. There's just something, the way I'm wired, that I kind of gravitate towards those types of things. And it's like that with nearly everything in my life. I like tools that have lived a life.
Yeah.
I like,
a knife, like a nice set of knives, or a pocket knife or something like that. Very much so.
I don't have any real knives or a knife collection or anything like that. But I'm fascinated by the process of Damascus steel. So there's an appreciation for what those people are doing, how much handwork goes into creating a product like that. And I mean, we just live in this world of things being forced on us, whether they're screens, whether it's touch screen in our cars.
Everything
I can't stand the screens in the cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything feels like it's a commodity, or it feels like it's disposable, or it's temporary. It's not meant to last. Yeah.
Do any of you know the story of selvage denim and what happened there? It's kind of an interesting one.
No, is that the Japanese one where you have to wear it to the ocean the first time or something like that?
Yes. You have part of the story. So selvage denim was actually the best denim in the world was in America. We had the best denim, 20s to 40s, I would say. And around and I might get the dates a little bit wrong, around the 1950s, there was a lot of money, opulence, things happening in America where people wanted to wear a business suit, people wanted to be dressing up more. And the workwear, the denim that was used at the farm, the denim that was used to physically do things in, was becoming less and less important. And so America sold all the machinery to create selvage denim to Japan. And now all of the best denim in the world comes from Japan. And it's using American equipment that is 70 years old. And there's just so many amazing things about that when you really kind of think about it. And we think about where we are today in the world and what's happening in America. We think about furniture, right? North Carolina was a furniture creation mecca. I think it's coming back a little bit, but it's nowhere near what it was. And in many cases, there are a lot of things we do every day that we were really, really great at, that I think it's somewhere twisted, wired up in our DNA, right? Where we were designed to be creating things, making things, using our hands, interacting with things. And our parents were working at the factory, our grandparents were working at the factory. People were actually making these things. And I just feel like we've had all this stuff forced on us. And I don't think the screens are going to age well in automobiles. Not sure what, these things are going to do long term to us.
There was one car of the modern age that I thought did it right with the screen, but they don't sell it in North America. It's the Volkswagen. I think is it the Polo or like the cheapest Volkswagen in Europe, where instead of a screen they just have like a phone holder, where like you basically put your phone there. And there, just use your phone. Use your
phone
whatever
becomes,
it
basically your
is the
your
interface,
dashboard.
because that's what CarPlay is anyway, right?
Yeah.
So
I didn't know about that. Yeah, it's funny. We carry it around in our pocket or wherever, and then
why don't you just put it there?
Yeah, why not just put it there? Yeah, it's an interesting time. There's again full of books, but there's a great book called Revenge of Analog. If you're interested in reading about why we seem to be longing to go back to nature, to go into the woods, to create things, to build things out of wood, to work on a car, he goes into a lot of that, and it's fascinating because you and I didn't ask for all these screens. We didn't. We have hands. We're supposed to use them, right? So yeah, and I think good design. When you think about products that leave a mark from whatever industry, good design seems to usually have some element of tactile interaction.
Yeah.
There's something you're doing right to interact with the product.
Very true. Very true. So, as a well-known closet country music fan, Steve.
Get out. Are you serious? That is not what I would have thought.
What is your favorite country music song?
Really? Like Kentucky Headhunters? Like country? Like that?
You probably physically see my blood pressure rising.
I can see the smoke start to come out of your ears right now.
So Carlo knows this. Fidelity Imports has a very strict no country rule in our trade shows. We won't play any country.
Why?
No, because I can't stand it. If I'm completely transparent.
Oh, sorry. I thought you liked it. Sorry.
No, I'm yanking his chain, man. I'm yanking his chain.
There is a physical, painful reaction that happens to me when I hear even the slightest bit of country. I can't stand it. I don't understand why it exists. I'm sorry I'm so passionate and opinionated about this. And Carlo, you asked me this question because you knew that
exactly. That's exactly why I asked.
I like almost every music format out there, but I cannot stand country. Even the first hint of it, and I am out of the room. Before I even consciously realize I need to walk, my feet are already going in the direction of the exit of the room. That is my feeling on country. And I don't care. I have nothing against Beyonce. I don't even know if that's country she's making. I've never listened to it. I don't want to. I
don't think Beyonce makes country music.
She made she came out with a country album or so recently. Yeah.
Well, I mean, country is pop now, so yeah.
There is no country going on. We don't play any country in any of our rooms. And the guys sort of all tease me. Some of them like country. I believe one of the guys on the team, Jim, I'm he'll watch this maybe. But I think he likes, actually physically enjoys and likes country music. Yeah, I can't stand it at all. Not even a little bit. I don't understand. My brain can't process why somebody
some of the twang sound or whatever.
So anyone on your team, if they're listening, what you can do is just there's a hack where you can name the first song in a playlist. I think it's like 0000 or like AAA. You could basically take the worst country song and just name it that and put it on the top of the playlist, so that when you plug in whatever you're doing, it defaults to that song every single time.
I think you just got your name removed from any future press events. Taps, I think is what happened. It's right there.
It's one of those sorry not sorry things too. Like if we're at a show and somebody says, "Oh, can I hear this?" I don't even know. I know that there's this Chris Stapleton person people talk about. If somebody goes, "You got any Chris Stapleton?" No, I'm sorry, we don't play country. I have said that, and I don't mean it to be a jerk or whatever. It's just there's so much great music. I can't stand it. Please pick something else, right? But listen, I feel exactly the same way about Steely Dan for a different reason. I have heard enough Steely Dan in my life being in audio that I just you know how you get like to a level where it's beyond. I can't consume another
Steely Dan track.
I think we have the name of this episode now. No Country for Old Steve.
It's like, Ricky, please lose that number. Oh my God.
Vendor meeting at Exponent. We do it at every trade show in the morning, 2 hours before we get started. I generally make the manufacturers that we represent in our portfolio come from all over the world, right? Mm-hmm. So as far as Japan, Italy, France, wherever, right? Wisconsin. Yeah. And we have a vendor meeting. We talk about what to expect, what we're going to do, how we want to portray ourselves.
Yeah.
And I have this concept of like, if the answer to the question, what did you do to have a good show, was I opened the door to the room, you've already failed, right? But you'd be shocked how many people show up at one of these shows and that's their goal. I'm going to open the door. Whatever's going to come at me is going to come at me.
Yeah.
Maybe that goes towards the difference of what you were talking about, Carlo, in approach of how people,
right,
in their business. But we talk about the fact that we're going to educate people on why we're playing a certain piece of music, what they should hear, what we hope they hear, and, a little bit about who the artist is, whatever else. And then we talk about what we won't do. And we don't play any Steely Dan. We don't play any country music at all. Mm-hmm. And we don't play any bouncy ball. And what I mean,
those little effects things or whatever. Yeah.
I truly don't understand why anybody would play that in an audio show. And again, it goes back to my, I have fundamental beliefs, really hardcore on what bouncy the industry should be. Yeah. And I'll give you an example, Taps. I went to this somewhat premium audio brand, and I had a couple minutes, in between when I knew some meetings were coming. So I said, all right, now's my chance. I'm going to escape from the room, and I'm going to go experience a couple other brands. A couple people were saying, you got to go check out this thing. So I went and I listened. I wanted to go, and I listened and sat and had a demo. Brands making some noise. It's expensive, but it whatever. Yeah. People are talking about it. And I was in there for 15 to 18 minutes, somewhere around there. I would tell you that I heard 3 songs, but I didn't hear 3 songs. I heard three cuts of something. And as I was walking out, they wouldn't take any requests. So they would not play anything you wanted.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I hate that.
And so one of the guys there says, well, what did you think? And I'm not trying to be, a pain in the butt with anybody, but I firmly believe this and incorporate it in what we do or what we don't do. And that is, I said to them, I don't know, because you never played 1 minute of music. And I heard a ball move around the room, I think. I have no frame of reference of what said ball should sound like. It's not something I really tune my ears to try to understand. And I've been here for nearly 20 minutes, and you didn't play a single instrument or a vocal or music. And I got into this for music, and I think most of the people that are here did. So we don't play any bouncy ball stuff. I don't think anyone should. I know these are just my opinions. Everybody can do whatever the heck they want. But I think it's terrible for the industry to play a weird ball that moves around the room. And
you mean like an actual bouncing ball?
Yeah, it's like a synthesized I mean, Carlo probably has a little bit because I think you've had the same demo, but
it was like a synthesized series of like sounds or whatever that like, you know, panned across the room and like, you know, go all over the place. And it's like, I mean, it's just like a lot of sort of random stuff that had no melody to it or anything. And I could understand it if it had like a beat to it, but didn't even have a beat to it. When I heard it, it was just like to show off that, ooh, here's stuff going around here and everywhere else. And it was like, who listens to this?
Yeah. So we've decided like we're gonna play real music in every.
And do you take requests in your rooms?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay.
Except for country and Steely Dan. And listen, we're one of the groups that, I have a strong. I like almost every music, but I'm a giant hip hop fan and all genres of hip hop, right? So we are one of the rooms that will play that, it could be some Southern rap, Louisiana, Kevin Gates. It could be some classic Tupac, Biggie. It could be Beastie Boys. I mean, we will play all of that.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of rooms won't play any hip hop at all. And
it's crazy when you consider, like, when you were talking about the aging demographic, like, I literally, aside from going to audio shows, the two that I've been, I don't know anyone that listens to Diana Krall. I don't know who listens to that. I don't know who listens to classical music. I don't know. I don't know any of this stuff, right? So when I go to an audio show, if I can't play my own music, I just leave the room.
What are you, 14? What? What's the matter with you?
I grew up on like hip hop, house music, and then by right of hip hop, funk and soul. But hip hop, house, drum and bass, techno, like that's my bag. I
got this.
I can't understand rock lyrics. Like I just.
You're not supposed to understand rock lyrics. I mean,
no, but I physically, I don't think that it's English when I listen to it. I can understand dancehall reggae, but like rock is just. It's just...
I like rock music too. I'm a huge reggae fan. I think that for us, one of the things I recently did was I purchased a couple copies of Guru's Jazzmatazz.
Yeah, it's great.
So if you don't know what that is, it is a fusion of Donald Byrd and Guru and some international. There's some other languages, right? Yeah, R.I.P. 100%, top 10 probably, or at least top 20. Alive or dead. So he fused hip hop with jazz and then a little bit of world music. And
that's
the greatest experimental album that I've come across. And it's not that easy to find, but they just recently re-released it. So I bought a couple copies and we will be spinning that at Expona in a number of the rooms. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was like during the time of like, I guess the golden age of hip hop where all the samples were jazz samples. Like it started in funk and soul, like the James Browns, the Curtis Mayfields, and then jazz became like a thing. And like where you're digging for samples, you would dig older jazz samples. And then it just became a thing of just like, we actually like this music as much. And then here's a modern interpretation of it. So they had amazing singers on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Carlo, you should check it out. Guru.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
It's fantastic.
The first 2 volumes.
Okay. Yeah. Guru. What's it called? Guru
Jazzmatazz.
Jazzmatazz. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. I'll send you a link.
Yeah, do it. That'd be great. I'd love to check that out.
You'll love it. It's fantastic. He has a very, very distinct voice. Great rhyme flow. It's very lyrical.
I love anything that's got a good beat or a melody to it. I mean, I'm down with that.
1992, Carlo.
I can't. My oldest kid is into like death metal, and anytime I hear that stuff, it's always like. I mean, it sounds like I stuffed my head in a vacuum cleaner, and I can't make heads or tails of it.
I love it. In my old home, my neighbor used to listen to death metal. So when I'd have speakers over, I'm like, "Hey, this is gonna go really loud all into the night. Do you want to hear your stuff too?" And he's like, "Yeah, dude."
Oh my God, that's crazy. Well, it's everyone appreciating music and hopefully a decent system for a change. So it's good. It's all good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what? Wine and sake or whiskey and scotch?
That's a great question. I definitely have issues. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. I've got issues, man. I use an app called Vivino.
Okay, all right, I know where this is going.
Creative writing outlet, and I am I'm like number 500 in the world in wine reviews. Let me explain to you that it is 100% made up. I'm not qualified to review any wine at all. No one should listen to me. But I use words like pencil shavings, graphite, worn saddle, just ridiculous things I've heard as I've gone to wine tastings in Napa and around the world. Where you want to laugh at people when they say these, like, how do you know what a pencil shaving tastes like? But so I for fun, because you go to the liquor store and it's this wall of stuff. I don't have a darn clue. I don't know what varietal, I get it. Like I can tell you what a Merlot is versus a Cabernet, right? Or a Pinot Noir, but I couldn't tell you what this region of France produces or this or that. But I just found that to give myself notes, I would say very blunt things originally, right? Because I was originally doing it just for myself, like tastes like garden water, right?
Tastes like pond scum. Yeah.
Exactly. So people started like hitting like on some of my reviews, and somehow I rose up in the Vivino pantheon of whatever. And now I'm just trying to propagate this to the point where I get into the top 100. I have this vision of like, I'll get into the top 100 Vivino, and I'm going to be on the Good Morning America show or the Today Show giving Steve's holiday wine recommendations, and then all of my inner circle, like everyone who knows me, right? Carlo, like all these guys know that every word that will come out of my mouth about wine will be completely made up, but it's gonna sound like
it's gonna sound glorious. It's like
your wine reviews sound like my audio reviews. Like it's got a lot of oomph.
So there you go. In terms of what I enjoy wine, I'm not educated in it. I don't know enough about it. If you ask me, sort of one spirit is all you're on an island. You got a boat shipwrecked, and you've got one spirit until you can get off the island. It would be whiskey. But
are you a peaty, caramelly, vanilla, smoky? What's your thing?
I like them all. I mean, I love bourbon, but I like Irish whiskey, and I like peaty Scotch, Scotch as well. Like, I'm a big fan of Springbank. Apparently, you can't buy it. I can't find it anymore. It's very, very hard to find. I think Springbank, if I'm correct, is still family owned. It is not owned by a Diageo or one of those big giant companies that own almost all of the spirits in the world. Yeah. But they're making Scotch the way that it was made in Scotland, for centuries. They air dry, the ingredients in a big room. I'm kind of all over the place with it. In terms of whiskey, I like beer, but unlike most people, I can't stand IPAs. I don't.
I can't either.
No,
I'm not.
I don't.
Once I quit smoking, I couldn't drink beer anymore until I picked up, and get ready for this, guys, MGD, and I could drink that one now.
MGD.
That's the only one.
I don't like fruity beer, and I don't like chewy beer. I just like a nice cold beer on a hot day, and while I'm out using the grill or whatever.
Chewy beer.
Yep. Chewy beer is like it's like something heavy, like a Guinness or something like that. I'm just not. I don't dig that.
I'll drink a Guinness too.
Nah.
I like him.
Yeah, but it's not beer to me. That's just something else delicious.
It's something else. It's syrup. It's frothy syrup. Oh
So-
my god.
But onto your love of tactile things and like getting your hands on things. To follow up, nachos or chicken wings?
Oh shoot, nachos by far.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like jalapenos, man.
Are you a meat topping nachos or just cheese and veg and stuff?
As long as there's jalapenos, I don't care what else is there.
Jalapenos and chips.
Do you even need the nachos then? Or is it just-
Wait, I do have standards, right?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
While I'm from South Philadelphia, so I will do cheese whiz on my cheesesteak. I don't want nachos with liquid cheese. Nachos have got to have sprinkled on melted cheese. So the guy's got to have standards, you know.
Totally. Cheese whiz is only meant for cheesesteak sandwiches in the garbage can. In the garbage can, and that small section of Philly cheesesteaks. That's it. That's all. and maybe like 5-minute epoxy or something if you're gluing something together. But other than that, oh my god, it's great. All right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I have to ask one thing. So like I'm just on the Fidelity Imports section or website, sorry. And I do have to ask, outside of Perliston, which you is there like a singular product that you just like when you saw you're like I have to own this one?
Yeah, 100%. We often comment that Perliston is the halo of our portfolio. We go to bed thinking about it. We wake up thinking about it. Right. That is our A1 mission every day. The second and equally as important is and I'm very proud to represent is Michelle. So for 2 years, I called the Michelle family every week as a persistent son of a gun because they did not have representation in America. They had somebody selling their parts online, but they had no dealers, no store. They weren't selling you couldn't buy the tables in America. You had to import them from England, and even that, I don't really think anybody really wanted to go through that process.
That hassle,
and
yeah.
I saw arguably what I think is the most iconic turntable in the world. Steve Jobs had one. Taps, if you Google Steve Jobs Hi-Fi, you will see a picture of Steve Jobs sitting on the floor. This is very famous. His audio room did not have any furniture. Behind him, there is a stack of equipment, and one of the products is a Michelle turntable. It's kind of an iconic picture. Michelle represents. It's cool, right? If you zoom in, you'll see the Michelle table. Michelle represents a lot of why we started this company. This is a family. There are 3 generations of the Michelle family still active, working in the business. They've been building stuff in England since 1968. They make products that if you bought a Michelle table from 1972, you can buy parts to continue to service it, to use it today. And in many cases, when they find a way to make something sound better, they will try to re-engineer that to be able to fit on their older generations. So you can bring a product that's 50 years old almost up to current state. And that's been part of their mantra from the very beginning. And I think about a world where so many things are throwaway and thrown away, disposable.
Yeah.
They represent something totally different. So that, every one of our brands, it's like trying to pick your children. But if you asked me to highlight,
one of them,
one of them beyond Perlisson, it would definitely be Michelle. And I'm very, very proud. We feel a sense of pride and accomplishment to be their distributor and to represent them. And, I was just in England visiting with the family. I was an extension of their family while I was there, and they treat our whole team that way.
They're super nice people.
Yeah, you've spent some quality time with them too, Carlo. This is the part of audio that, how do we tell it? How do we tell it when we're so used to that single serving review environment where we talk about what you can buy for $9.99 and the two competitors next to it?
Yeah.
All of that is lost, and it shouldn't be, and that's what I'm deeply passionate about. That, I feel like people need to understand that there's a choice with their money. It doesn't mean better. It's not about the best. It's not about better. There's a choice. And there are people making things and bleeding with their hearts and with their bodies to produce these products and to continue to make them and make them operate, for 70 years. I mean, imagine, right?
I wonder, is like, I don't know how to frame this. I'm thinking as I talk, which is probably not the best thing, but like, you know how like recipes are passed down from someone's like nonna? Or like, it's like, here's how you make the pasta, here's how you make the ragu, and that gets passed down generations. It's all done in the kitchen. We almost need like that in audio. It's like, because I guess in like my generation and older, there's always like the uncle or someone that had a cool stereo, or the father, and then you're cross-legged, just like listening to the vinyl, and that's kind of like your upbringing. And I've heard that story a lot. So I wonder, like, what gets carried forward in that, like, is.
I think the story is an important thing. I mean, and I think, and at least in the couple of times I've traveled, Steve, with you and the press gang that we've had going to Italy and stuff. I mean, that's the thing that stood out with me, is that these places that we visited each had a sort of a very deep personal story to what they do and what they make and why they do it. And it's not a physical or tangible thing, but it's something that basically increases the value of something, that of what they do. And I mean, to me, I would much rather, if I was going to invest my money or put my money into a piece of gear, I would much rather do it with a brand that has a story, that has something to tell, that has some meaning behind what they're doing and why they're doing it, versus like, just another black box that I find somewhere for a great deal, and it's just I think we need more of that. We need the reasons for why these things are there to be brought out more. At least, if I'm verbalizing that properly.
I love what you said, and I think that we're on the same wavelength. And it's, look, we've chose to make a living. This is all Carlo, you had a life before audio as an animator, which is an amazing thing. But for me, this is all I know. It's all I've done. It's all I've had. I'm a college dropout. You know what I mean? Like, so I have been in the audio industry forever. And there's a lot of smarter people than me. But I can tell you with great clarity of vision, if we don't change the way we talk about the products, the people, the companies, and the locations, it'll just be numbers, and it'll always go lower, and it'll be harder and harder to compete, and there'll be less and less choices. And at some point, you'll have just homogenized, mushy nonsense. And again, this is all I've ever done. And I think about the journey I've had, and I know a lot of my friends have had, and I know a lot of people who've had it as well. And it can be so much more than that. It's really, the industry exists because there's a great passion to reproduce music, which is art, and because you can put a signature, you can put something on it, right? Back to your recipe, whether you use fresh basil in your ragu, whether you use, pork sausage, what kind of meatball you use, right? Like, so there's something in there to that. In Philly, we would say Sunday gravy. But, and I think that I have this quote, I use it all the time. The founder of MTV said, and it's pretty apropos that it was him that said this, I think, how much science can you apply to something that's art? And it sticks with me because you can have a product in audio that measures to what we believe we've been taught, what know is supposed to be perfect.
Perfect, yeah.
And it's lifeless. There's no engagement. It don't move you. You don't get the chicken skin when you listen to it. You don't stand up and there might be tears there. You have no emotional reaction to it, right? And that's the thing that I think we still haven't figured out. So forget the debate. Are cables important? Do they work? Or blah, blah, blah. Right? How do you feel? For me, with audio, I always feel like I know very, very quickly whether I think something sounds good or whether it's something I would want to put in my portfolio. And it's generally about the tone. It either sounds like music or it sounds like hi-fi. If it sounds like hi-fi, I'm out, right? Just not interested in that, And many times, the thing that sounds like hi-fi
is a studio monitor.
What's that?
It's a studio monitor at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want that.
Yeah,
like no one listens that way because it sucks. It's like like I always like one of my things I always harp about tone controls. Like I just want that on everything because when I hear at an audio show, I'm just like, oh, can I just turn up the bass a little bit? That's my preference, right? Like I grew up in clubs, so like I want to hear a boosted signal.
And there's nothing wrong with that. So for somebody to say, I wouldn't put tone controls, that's not high end. Those are the people you need to choke, right?
Yeah.
Who says? Who says that shouldn't be there? Who says you can't put a subwoofer with 2-channel, right?
Multiple subs. I want a subwoofer.
Yeah. Oh, seriously, more than one.
But there are some people go, there's no subwoofer. That's not the,
Yeah, whenever someone says I don't need a subwoofer for my music, I'm just like, I
don't want to talk to you.
I a full range tower. It's like you still need a sub. It's just I don't care. Multiples.
But I think that we were talking we're talking about story, and I think it shouldn't be that hard because it's like you can mention any. I think you can name me any established brand out there, and each one of them has a story, but they're just not telling it.
I don't think they know how
to survive, right?
What's that?
If you didn't have a story, you didn't survive. So if if you've been around for a while, there was a story there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could think of a bunch of brands that I equate with like another black box or whatever that have been around forever that have stories. I mean, and they're compelling stories. I know some of them, and they're just not telling it. They're not leveraging that, or they're not.
I wonder if it's because like in this hobby, like part of the thing of like the thing that we were just talking about that we don't like of like the pursuit of perfection, but like the story is filled with mistakes,
right?
And like people aren't willing to talk about their mistakes and their scars, essentially, right?
Right.
And
that's what makes the story real.
That's what makes it tangible and relatable, right?
Right. Because I mean, if you're just gonna, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, Carlo and I traveled with a group.
I saw
one of the people there was Randy, Cheap Audio Man.
Yeah.
Him and I were having a conversation. I don't know, we're going from one factory to the other or something about storytelling, but also vulnerability. And I don't know how we got there in this audio discussion we're having today, but being vulnerable is not a negative thing, right? So when you can admit the fact that you got something wrong, that the journey ultimately led you to something that's amazing, right? A product that's awesome or whatever else, but just having that ability to say that and to look at everything as a learning experience on your journey, I think it shapes you into what you are. And in terms of being a listener and figuring out what you like in audio, you know, you celebrate all that stuff, right? If you, and I'm not throwing shade at the brand, but if you started your journey with I won't say the brand, a $99 turntable that came in a little box that you could buy at Urban Outfitters.
You could say it and we'll just beep it out.
No, because I'm sure they make some great stuff, and actually, I know some people over there. But the point is, your journey is your journey, and you get to learn kind of what you like, and if you can stay away from the people who have all the answers to everything, and learn for yourself and experience it, you know, it's an amazing hobby. It's an amazing journey. Audio, it's tied to art, it's tied to music, and it's also tied to that tangible ability to put something in or out of your setup and notice a change. And again, when we remove the word best from the equation and we think about what did this do and did I like that, or are there trade-offs? Are the trade-offs good or bad? Am I going closer to what I believe music is? And one of the things we talk about here all the time, and you know, maybe it's silly for us to say that, but our end goal is for you to stop buying gear, right? Like get you off the merry-go-round and have you thinking, this sounds like what I think music would sound like. I don't need to go ask about what's the next level up integrated amplifier, what's the next speaker up the line, what's the next whatever.
I found my holy grail. Here it is.
Right. Yeah. And again, like you can always aspire to something else, but like get off the merry-go-round of constantly thinking there's something wrong that you need to fix. Stop talking about how wide the sound stage is and how deep into the stage you can hear and the imagery of this and blah, 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 right? And this sounds incredible. I'm happy with it, even when I'm not necessarily in the sweet spot, right? I'm off axis. It still sounds like music. I want to go see somebody perform live. I want to spend Saturday digging through crates, buying some records, or I'm going to spend a little bit more and pay for the premium version of Tidal, Qobuz, blah, blah, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Streaming format that is. And that's when our job is done, right? Because we've curated products that work well in a synergy. We've helped you, or the retailers helped you figure out what what you're looking for out of a system. And now, right, the goal should be stop buying stuff and go enjoy it. And then learn what it's supposed to sound like by listening to live music. Experience these instruments, musicians, and the art live, right? And again, you won't find enough people talking like that. You'll hear them talking about the endless pursuit of building the best integrated amplifier, separates, monoblock, blah, 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 whatever. That's not why I got into this. I don't think that's why most of the people that are in the hobby got into it. Now, there are some people who are gear junkies. They can't help it.
They can't help themselves. Yeah.
They can't help it, right? And the thing is that there's nothing wrong with having a vacuum tube amplifier, a Class D amplifier, or a Class D or a Class A amplifier, or a Class AB, right? Having a choice and knowing what that does in your room with your setup and the types of music you may listen to. Because almost everything is a trade-off or a compromise, right? If you want that I am there overly exaggerated sometimes feeling of, some people would use the word warmth or presence or whatever, it's hard to get that. I mean, you could do it with Class A, you can do it with a single-ended triode, but you're going to have a speaker that's going to compromise.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's the other end of the spectrum where you can have, gobs and gobs of power, but no emotion coming out of it. So I think that's the thing, learning that. And I think that when we were in an analog environment, people were more willing to do that because they might have changed cartridges. They might have had multiple cartridges on a head shell. Let me listen to this one. Let me try that one. But now sometimes it's like, I'm one camp. That's it. I'm in this camp, right?
Well, I don't know. I feel like with what you're talking about, it's like gearheads are always going to exist. So, like, it's almost like you don't need to sell them. It's like once they're in, they're always just gonna, like, it's like I don't have to tell you, convince you about the next car or this, you'll go and find it, right? But it's like for the people that just love music, that's kind of who you want to talk to. And
Yeah.
like switching components constantly. It's like if you're just like, it's like, hey, you know the music you love, like tell me how you heard it or like what you fell in love with. Here's what might be applicable to you. You know what I mean? Like I think that's more of the conversation, Like I think a lot of people grew up like with like discovering music in the previous generation, like say mine in like the 80s and 90s, were on potentially the worst system you've ever heard, right? Like ghetto blasters, crappy tape decks, but like it was basically the vibe of whatever you were hearing, and that's what you bought into, right? And then in the current day, the people are on Apple earbuds or Beats headphones, or and they're listening off Spotify or who knows, or YouTube and like we're trying to attract them and being like, here's
something
potentially
better.
Yeah, this could actually sound better. Like there was a story of this as an aside, when I got I think I told you, Carlo, I had the Founder 120Hs in.
Oh yeah,
like over summer.
Yeah.
And so I had all my friends over to listen, but the person I was most interested in was my friend's daughter, who was like 14 at the time. And I was just like, here's my phone, just play whatever you want, and then I'll come back in an hour and just like let me know what you think. And she was like listening to like Lana Del Rey at some point, and she was like, hey, there's someone else singing on the back half of the song, and I'd never heard that person before. And it's like, oh, this is who it's made for. Like this is your first introduction with something. And yeah, you're hearing something crazy expensive, but now you know that there's a level. There's like to this.
You have a reference point now.
Yeah.
There's some YouTube that can actually sound quite good. If you saw me look away, I apologize. My eyes were distracted, but I was trying to pull up to make sure I gave you the right one. It's French. I think French is the greatest language in the world, but I can't pronounce a word of it. It's 3 E with the little tilde thing on top of the E, M-E, separate word, Gauche, Bastille Pompeii. So a lot of people know the song Bastille Pompeii. It's proof that YouTube can sound incredible. And I want you to, when we're done this, when you get a chance, play this. They are in a cathedral in France somewhere, I think in Paris maybe. And it's the 4 band members, and they've got a guitar case. And the beat is him stepping or stomping on the guitar case. And you can hear it. You can hear the reverb. You can hear the echoes all of the actual space where they are, of the cathedral, come through. And even on a bass, I mean, you could have little mini monitor, kind of set up at your desk, play that on YouTube. But then if you ever have a chance, if you've got a good USB DAC or whatever, to send that through your system, you on an average, decent, whatever, 2-channel setup, you will be blown away how that comes through from YouTube. So sometimes the format in which we've got it isn't bad, right? Like, and I yearn for the old school days of a mixtape, right? Streaming, you can play whatever you want, but it's, I don't know. I think if you ask me format, I like them all. I think streaming is incredible. And I think that
It's so easy.
It is easy, and I think that we're getting really great quality out of streaming now. Maybe 10 years ago it wasn't the best, but these days streaming can challenge the absolute best. The problem for me, and why I'm still a huge proponent of vinyl, obviously I'm analog minded in everything I do anyway, and in the company I'm the least technologically capable person, so that's probably part of it. But
is it also like with streaming, there's in this digital age, there's just so much music and so much content. It's hard to sometimes navigate. Like I discover music on SoundCloud a lot of the times, and I have Spotify as well. But like just the sheer amount of stuff that comes out, I can't keep track. And it's a lot different than like I would used to go to the record store. I used to listen to the radio, for example, and like college radio was huge here. And you're a captive audience, but then you're basically listening to whatever the DJ's playing, and then you kind of write down your favorite songs and you go to the store to find out what that is. But now, since everything's digital, it's like, hey, you can get like 1,000 songs a week. And it's like, I can't keep track. And I don't have any emotional investment to it because I didn't have to do anything besides just
you didn't
press
have to
play.
Discover it. In a
So,
kind
like,
of organic way.
I don't have an emotional attachment to any music in the last 10 years just because I just hit play. You
don't have to have your finger waiting on the record button for the announcer on the radio to be like, and now I'm gonna play at number 5, blah blah, and then you'll click. That's on my mixtape. The thing about streaming that I think for me is the last part I got to figure out. In many cases, the way you're controlling the streaming is with your device, whether it's your phone or your iPad. And so you're never fully engaged in streaming the same way you are in vinyl. I'd love to just leave my phone before I went and actually wanted to, sort of spend some time listening to music, streaming, and doing just that with nothing else. But the problem becomes something's always tugging at you on this thing, right? Whether it's I got an email, a notification of this or that, whatever, right? So with vinyl, I can leave my phone or my device or whatever outside. I don't need to bring that in the room with me, and I can lose hours. And Carlo's heard me talk about this before, but our goal at Fidelity is to figure out how you lose hours, right? If this is your thing, then you should have a scenario where you say to your significant other, your family, or whatever, hey, I'm going to go listen to some music. And then we've done our job if like they're like, where are you? When are you coming back? You said you were going to listen to music. 4 hours. And you're like, 4 hours? I was just listening to some music. You lost hours. And that concept of losing hours is what this hobby is 100% about, right? Yeah. When it's in its purest form, because you're transcended, you're losing, space, time, whatever, and you're just in the music.
You're vested into it.
And that's the part that this hobby can do that almost nothing else can, right? You can say that, a great automobile on a back road and a full tank of gas, you can lose hours as well, right? Yeah. But there's very few things that can do that for you. And for me, that's a measure of, you've reached nirvana,
Yeah, that does make sense. That's the reason. That's the reason for being, pretty much, for this whole hobby.
Yeah, you're talking to two creative people, so like we're good at losing hours on end.
Yeah, for no apparent reason. Oh man. Well, speaking of losing hours, I think I'm looking at the clock here, and we've been on this for like 2 hours and 15 minutes. This is officially the longest.
Yeah.
It was fun.
It is awesome. Yeah. It is absolutely awesome. I mean, Taps, was there anything else you wanted to cover, or?
I'm sure there's tons. I mean, I could probably just pick your brain all day, but there is one last thing, and this will probably take us to 3 hours. But so we got cars, we got hi-fi, we got watches. Is there any other obsession?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bazillion. Like I said,
Here we go.
Oh, wine. Just we got wine.
I'm just wired to be an inquisitive person, and I like stories. I like to, I like to learn,
Okay.
things, right? And so, for sure, photography. I'm not good at it, right? So that's the challenge. But I mean, I guess that's also the opportunity. I very much enjoy it. And I like the fact that because I'm not very good at it, I have to really slow down. There are some people who understand what they're after when they come upon a scene, when they come upon a spot. When I like street photography, so let's just say landscape or whatever, right? Like, so they're walking and they see something in a city or wherever, and they know what it's going to look like. I'm nowhere near that level, right? I will try to capture something that grabs my interest, I think is cool, weird, funky, or I want to document. And so I'll try to capture it, right? And what I've learned is I started with I'm somewhat newer to photography, so I started with a Sony mirrorless camera. I had a Canon, but it had a big long zoom, and I was terrible at it. I never really ever used it. When I decided, hey, I'm going to buy like a decent camera, I started with a Sony mirrorless. And what I learned about myself was the more menus, the more choices, the more it did for me, the less I felt like it was fun. And the more I went towards, and lately I just shoot rangefinder. I have an M camera. That I shoot way less, right? Like I take way less pictures, but I think more about it, and I put myself in that moment, and I try to understand all of the controls and dials on the camera and what they're doing. And every now and again, I get lucky and mash that shutter button, and I grab something really that I'm proud of, right? But yeah, so that I would say I would put photography in that level of the other hobbies as something really important for me, while not really being very proficient at it.
You had a beautiful camera when we were in Italy. Was that the M camera you were talking about?
Yeah.
That was really nice. I like that.
Thank you.
Yep.
So
yeah,
then, oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
I have a couple lenses. I mean, I don't have that many lenses. I try not to give myself too many choices. So there's this like idea of like one camera, one lens, and I've been trying to get better at adopting that. Meaning, I'm gonna go the entire trip with one camera, one lens. Again, it's gonna be a manual focused, fixed focal length prime lens, right? So I'm not going to have multiple choices. I'm not going to have zoom. Zoom is your feet, right? So, but I believe, I don't know this, but I believe that by stripping it back and having no other choices, I'm going to learn more and hopefully propel myself into becoming a better photographer by getting good at doing just that, right? I think I think photography is awesome, and I think that while maybe not for the same reasons, the point of Instagram when it started, maybe right, of photography sharing, was just that we generally all, whether we realize it or not, appreciate photography, right? Even if you wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm into photography," Instagram has shown that so many people are. Oh, there's a lot of crazy stuff on Instagram, and there's a lot of lost time and all that stuff. But I think it shows you how prevalent it can be.
So then, the last one, I guess, would be you've always mentioned stories, right? What is your high watermark show or movie that was the best story to you?
That's really tough. I mean, the one that
What was your favorite show? Like,
I guess the one that jumped out at me the first when you said that was Kill Bill.
Mm-hmm.
I just think there's so many elements of childhood, like, you know, the Bruce Lee kind of aspect and whatever else. And the way the story doesn't follow a consistent timeline and jumps all over the place. And whatever that guy's name, David Carradine or whatever that guy is, kind of, you know, like that sort of like, you know, kung fu kind of style of yeah, I think Kill Bill is probably one. I've got a lot of really, you know, I love this movie. I think it's apropos to storytelling. I think that for me, it's a connection with my dad. He's not here anymore. Is the movie Big Fish by Tim Burton. If you haven't seen that movie, ultimately it's about a guy who has maybe a strained relationship with their dad, hadn't seen them in a while, or, you know, wasn't really close because that person felt that their father told outlandish claims or outlandish stories or whatever, and ultimately the father was sick or ill, and maybe their time was coming. And it was about this guy kind of reconciling with his father, and then ultimately, you know, going to the funeral and seeing the basis of the truth, or the what was actually the reason for these stories being told. He embellished a little bit, right? But, you know, and so and then there's all these other elements of it. It's got an imagery that's, you know, that Tim Burton, you know, kind of only he can do that kind of thing. There's some amazing acting in it. There's some amazing actors in it. And yeah, it's a wild, wacky world that they paint. And I think those would probably be the two that would jump out for me. You know, I do like all the sci-fi stuff too, right? Like, so I like Star Wars. I even liked the new one that people hated, The Acolyte. So I don't know, might get flamed in the comments, but I haven't
seen it yet, so
haven't seen it either.
I thought it was good. Maybe not great, but I thought it was good. I think that what they're doing in expanding Star Wars universe beyond just the original main characters is kind of cool. And I think there's a million stories for Star Wars or Disney, however you want to say, to tell in the future with that franchise. And so I'm excited to see what else they do with that. And then I like all the, you know, Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings and all that stuff. And I guess, you know, guilty pleasure, I'm a Harry Potter fan, man. I said it. I'm not taking it back. I'm not taking it back.
Okay. I haven't seen that either. So
yeah, you haven't seen the Harry Potter movies?
No, man.
Good Lord.
What are you, 14?
Well, no, because it came out when I was in college, and then I was just like, I'm too old to watch this. And then, like, now my kids are too young to know what Harry Potter is.
I don't know, man. You need a weekend, maybe on a rainy weekend or something.
Yeah.
Start doing it.
Yeah, mainline some Harry Potter over a weekend.
I'm not going to poo-poo on you. I can't do fantasy.
No?
That's my line in the sand. I can't do it. It's my country music. I can't do it.
As a person who can't stand country music, I respect that. I have no further questions about your...
Anyway, thank you so much. We are 2 hours and 30 minutes. Thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. I feel like we could do this as part one of many.
It was tons of fun. Maybe next time we'll do one and we'll turn it around and I'll ask you guys some questions. What do we think?
Oh, it's fine with it. I don't know if anybody interested in what we have to say, but whatever, sure.
Well, we can dive into what the heck is going on with Taps not having seen all of these shows, and maybe we can force him to watch something. All right.
Oh, you can't. Don't do. I'm not watching it. I saw half of the second Lord of the Rings on a date, and I wanted to kill myself. I can't watch that stuff. It's not for me.
Where are you with Kill Bill? Tell me. Your thumbs
I liked
up?
it. Yeah,
okay.
It was good. It was good. But like fantasy, like I like sci-fi, but I like Edge of Tomorrow, like Arrival was really good, but don't give me goblins and dragons and DOS thou
Hokey- and
art
hokey
thou.
shit.
Like, I'm out, guys. Like, just don't give me that.
Oh,
It's a hard pass.
Uh,
Yeah, but yeah, maybe we
Yeah,
do the next one
yeah.
with wine.
yeah, with wine.
We see how
and-
off the rails it gets then, because
we each try to come up with a different Vivino review so we can.
Absolutely. I think that is a genius idea. And then let's let the audience vote, right, on who did the best review of the three of us. What do you think?
That would be awesome.
what do we remove the labels too?
Yeah, that's fine.
Is it
yeah,
keep
so
the
like-
labels to take them off, and then you just that way there's no confirmation bias on what we're doing. You know, we just kind of like taste it all, and then
I'm
Interesting.
100% down.
That's awesome.
let's do that.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much again.
Steve, thank you, man. Really appreciate you taking the time.
And where can we find you? It's fidelityimports.com.
FidelityImports.com. Fidelity Imports on Instagram.
Awesome.
Outstanding.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, Steve, man. Take it easy.